What would your life look like if fear no longer had a vote? Not silenced for a day, not managed or disguised, but removed, dethroned from its seat in your mind. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that world. A world where hesitation no longer delays your hand, where the trembling in your chest becomes a signal to advance, not retreat, where every step is made not from doubt, but from deliberate decision. You see, my friend, fear is not the enemy. It is instinct, a servant, not a master. It was designed to warn, not to rule. It whispers, "Careful," and the wise man listens, but he does not bow. He thanks the warning and then proceeds with purpose. That is the distinction between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Both feel fear, but only one decides in spite of it. In my years of study, I have watched men of industry and vision tremble before the same invisible tyrant. Not the market, not poverty, not failure, but fear, the quiet dictator within their own mind. They built empires the moment they learned this truth. Fear is allowed to speak, but it is never allowed to decide. And so I ask you tonight to listen with that truth in mind. For before this session ends, I will give you everything you need to break fear's hold. Not for a moment, not for a burst of courage, but as a discipline you can live by. Now place your hand upon your chest. Feel the rhythm beneath it. That is the pulse of life, of movement, of potential still untapped. We will begin with 3 slow breaths. Each breath is a command to your subconscious, a declaration that you are in charge. Inhale slowly. Say to yourself, "I am safe." Exhale gently. Say, "I am decisive." Again, inhale, feel the calm of certainty filling your body. Exhale, releasing hesitation, doubt, and every shadow that pretends to be power. For tonight, we are not merely speaking of fear, we are confronting it. We will strip it of its disguise, examine its roots, and see it for what it truly is, a habit of thought. And what is built by habit can be unbuilt by will. You and I shall walk through this together. I will be your guide, not as a preacher, but as a craftsman of the mind. I have forged these principles in the fires of observation and proof. I have seen men who shook with uncertainty rise to unshakable confidence once they learned to direct their thoughts with precision. And I have seen others, brilliant, gifted, wither in silence because they allowed fear to govern their every motion. But you tonight, you have chosen a different path. You are not here to be comforted. You are here to be reconditioned, to learn that fear is not destroyed by avoidance. It is destroyed by mastery. Take another breath. Let this moment be your line in the sand. From this point forward, fear may still knock, but you will no longer answer as a servant. You will answer as the sovereign of your own mind. Now we begin. Let us begin by understanding what fear truly is. Fear is not a monster waiting in the shadows, nor a curse placed upon mankind. It is instinct, ancient, primal, and once necessary for our survival. It is the echo of a time when danger lived behind every tree and every unknown sound could mean death. But we no longer live in that world. The beasts have changed. The threats are different. Yet fear, that old servant of survival, still beats the same drum in the human heart. You see, nature gave us fear to protect us. But when left untrained, that same instinct becomes a jailer that holds us back from living. It was meant to warn, not to govern. It was meant to keep the body from harm, not to imprison the mind from greatness. In all my years of studying men who achieved uncommon success, Carnegie, Ford, Schwab, I found that none of them were without fear. Not one, but they had learned to assign fear its proper place. They had learned to let it speak, but not to command. They understood that fear is a servant that must never be permitted to sit upon the throne. Fear may ride as a passenger, but it never touches the wheel. You may repeat that line, for it contains the essence of mastery. Fear may ride as a passenger, but it never touches the wheel. The problem, my friend, is not the feeling of fear. It is what we do when it appears. Most men pause. They hesitate. They wait for courage to arrive before they act. And in that waiting, fear grows stronger. It learns that it can stop you. Each time you obey it, you feed it. And with every act of hesitation, you surrender a piece of your power. Fear itself does not stop you. Inaction does. Hesitation is the true enemy of progress. Fear may whisper, "You might fail," but it is your pause that makes failure certain. It is not the trembling of the hands that ruins men, it is the stillness that follows it. Let me be clear. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. The strongest souls I have met were not those who felt nothing, but those who moved forward though they felt everything. Fear will always announce itself. Before a speech, before a risk, before a new venture. That is its nature. But you must learn to recognize it for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. It tells you this matters. It tells you here lies growth. It tells you you are at the edge of your old self. Most men retreat at that edge, but the man who steps forward, trembling though he may be, becomes something else entirely. He becomes unbreakable. You see, fear thrives in silence and avoidance. The more you resist it, the louder it becomes. It will twist your imagination, paint horrors of failure and ridicule that do not exist. But if you meet it, if you look it in the eye and move toward it, it withers. It cannot survive exposure. Fear is like fog. Step into it, and you will find it was never as thick as it seemed. So remember this law: fear is instinct. Inaction is choice. One you cannot escape, the other you can master. From this moment forward, when fear arises, do not ask, how can I remove it? Ask instead, what would I do if I were not afraid? And then do precisely that. Because the only difference between the man ruled by fear and the man who rules it is not what they feel, it is what they decide. Fear may ride as a passenger, my friend, but it must never again touch the wheel. Decision is the fire that melts fear. Delay, on the other hand, feeds it until it grows strong enough to rule your mind. Each time you hesitate, you give fear another breath. Each time you postpone, you build another wall between yourself and your destiny. Hesitation is the silent assassin of achievement. I have seen men of talent, men of genius even, remain poor in spirit and circumstance simply because they could not decide. They stood before opportunity as one stands before a door, hand upon the handle, heart full of longing, and yet never turned it. They waited for a sign, for a moment of perfect confidence that never came, and so they remained where they stood, imprisoned by their own caution. Let me tell you something plain. Courage does not come before decision. It comes after it. The man who decides, who acts while afraid, becomes courageous through the very act of motion. You see, the mind is not a master that must be convinced. It is a servant that must be commanded. It obeys the last clear order you give it. If your command is uncertain, your action will be hesitant. If your command is decisive, your body and spirit will follow in harmony. That is the psychology of power. The subconscious obeys the clarity of will. When I studied the men who built empires, I found this common law. They were not quicker in thought. They were quicker in decision. Where others deliberated, they declared. Where others doubted, they moved. They understood that delay multiplies fear, and that every moment spent in hesitation allows the mind to build ghosts that were never there to begin with. Fear thrives on uncertainty, but decision destroys uncertainty. It clears the fog and lights the path. Let me give you a tool, one that will serve you in the heat of hesitation. I call it the 5-second decree. When the impulse to act arises, when you know what must be done, count down in your mind, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. No debate, no negotiation, command, and then act. Why does it work? Because in those few seconds you silence the chatter of fear. You override the endless reasoning of the mind and awaken the will. Action, once begun, dissolves the paralysis of doubt. Try it in the smallest of things. Rise at the first alarm. Speak when your heart trembles. Send the message you have postponed. Each small decision strengthens the muscle of command. Each act taken swiftly weakens the grip of hesitation. Soon you will find that fear still whispers, but your will speaks louder. Do not wait to feel ready. You will never feel ready. Readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. And every decision made in faith becomes a bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be. Let these words become your decree. I do not wait to feel ready. I decree and I proceed. Repeat it softly now. Feel how the very rhythm of it awakens something steady within you. Say it again. With certainty this time, I do not wait to feel ready. I decree and I proceed. That is the first law of the fearless mind. decision over hesitation. For once a man decides, the universe itself seems to move to clear his path, and what once appeared as fear reveals itself as nothing more than fog, burned away by the fire of a single unwavering choice. There is a strange and powerful law that governs the mind. Whatever you avoid expands. Fear feeds upon distance. It grows larger each time you turn your back. It becomes distorted, swollen by imagination, until the shadow seems greater than the substance. But here is the truth I discovered through long study and painful observation. Fear is an illusion magnified by avoidance. When you move toward it, it begins to shrink. When you expose yourself to it, the mind recalibrates, the nerves settle, and what once appeared as terror becomes merely a task. Fear is like a cold pool on a winter morning. You may stand at its edge, debating, testing the water with cautious toes, retreating and returning over and over again, and the chill seems unbearable. But leap in wholly, decisively, and within seconds your body adapts. The very cold that frightened you becomes invigorating. The difference lies not in the water, but in your exposure. Avoidance exaggerates. Exposure neutralizes. I remember a young man who once sought my counsel. He feared public speaking to such a degree that even the thought of standing before an audience made him ill. He believed his fear was a curse, a sign of weakness. I told him what I now tell you. The only way to master that which you fear is to meet it again and again until it grows bored of trying to control you. So we built what I called the ladder of exposure. At the first rung, I asked him to speak a single sentence aloud to an empty room, then a few sentences to a trusted friend. Then a short talk before a small circle. Week by week he advanced. The trembling did not vanish, but it weakened, and one day he stood before hundreds, calm and certain. He did not become fearless by waiting. He became fearless by facing. That is the law. Fear grows in avoidance. It shrinks in contact. If you would destroy fear, you must build this ladder for yourself. Speak when your voice trembles. Ask for what you desire. Even if rejection feels near, publish your idea though it is imperfect. Present your work though your hands shake. Each exposure burns away a layer of illusion. Each act of courage reveals that what you dreaded was never as dangerous as you imagined. I tell you this with calm authority. Your mind cannot distinguish between imagination and experience. When you face fear, the nervous system learns a new truth. I have survived this before, and once the mind knows it can survive, it no longer panics. It obeys you. Think of the flame. From afar, it frightens. Its heat, its movement, its hunger seem uncontrollable. But step closer, and you discover that it is light, not death. It warms. It illuminates. It transforms. Fear is such a flame. From a distance, it appears as fire meant to consume. Up close, it becomes the very light that guides you. Repeat this now, for it is your affirmation and your shield. I step toward the flame, it becomes my light. Again, slower, with conviction. I step toward the flame, it becomes my light. That is the second law of mastery. Fear is not to be fled. It is to be faced, felt, and finally understood, because the moment you touch what you once feared, you rob it of its mystery. You strip it of exaggeration, and in that contact, you discover the truth that has been hidden all along. There was never anything to fear except your refusal to face it. There is a truth so simple and yet so staggering that when a man truly grasps it, his entire destiny changes. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is remembered. Think of that for a moment. To your deeper mind, what you picture with emotion becomes as real as what you have lived. This is both the root of fear and the cure for it. Fear is nothing more than the mind rehearsing defeat before life has even begun the contest. You imagine rejection, failure, ridicule, and your body responds as though those things were happening in the present. Your heart races, your palms grow cold, your muscles tighten, because your imagination, left ungoverned, has tricked your nerves into obedience. You are living a story that has not yet been written, and by believing it, you begin to make it true. But my friend, if fear can command your mind through false stories, then you may use the same mechanism to create power. The mind that repeats ruin can just as easily repeat triumph. The same imagination that enslaves you can, when directed, become the greatest tool of liberation. I learned this law early in my own struggle to overcome timidity. Every night before sleep, I would close my eyes and construct the man I wished to become, calm, deliberate, unwavering under strain. I would see him rise in the morning, speak with assurance, meet resistance with composure, act without trembling. At first it felt like play acting, but after some weeks, something extraordinary occurred. I began to behave as that man would behave, not through effort, but through instinct. The image had become reality, for the subconscious, you see, always obeys its most consistent story. So I ask you now, what story are you repeating? What inner dialogue do you perform each day without noticing? Do you say, "I am afraid I cannot"? Then your mind, loyal servant that it is, will make it so? Or do you say, "I am strong, I act despite uncertainty"? Then your mind will make that your truth instead. To reprogram fear, you must become the story maker. You must take back authorship of the inner script. There is a great misconception that has paralyzed more men than poverty or failure ever could. The belief that one must first feel courageous before acting. That is false, utterly false. Courage does not come before motion. Motion creates courage. It is the spark that lights the flame of confidence. A man sitting idle, waiting for bravery to visit him, will wait all his life. But the one who takes a step, even a trembling step, summons bravery into being. The world belongs not to those who feel ready, but to those who move while afraid. When I began my own study of success, I discovered that the men we call fearless were not free from fear. They simply learned to act before fear had time to grow roots. They knew that hesitation is the enemy's ally, for hesitation allows imagination to twist possibilities into threats, and every moment spent in doubt feeds the very fear one hopes to escape. I recall one such man, a builder of industries. He told me, "Mr. Hill, I do not analyze too long, for thought unacted upon becomes poison. I act first, and in motion I find my clarity." He was right. Action clears the fog that thought alone cannot. If you wish to destroy fear, then move. Even a single imperfect step is more valuable than 1,000 perfect plans. Movement manufactures momentum, and momentum births confidence. Let me give you a simple practice, one I have used myself and prescribed to others with great success. I call it the One Bold Step Daily Ledger. Each morning, upon waking, write this question at the top of a page. What single bold act will I take today? Then choose one deed, not grand, not reckless, but deliberate, that edges you beyond comfort. Perhaps it is speaking to the person you admire. Perhaps it is asking for what you have long deserved. Perhaps it is beginning that task which you have delayed for weeks. Whatever it may be, do it before the day grows old. Record it in your ledger each night. There is power in witnessing your own courage written upon paper. Day by day, those entries will stack like bricks until you have built a fortress of proof against fear. Understand this. Your body teaches your mind. When your feet move forward despite trembling, the brain learns a new lesson. We act even when uncertain, and with each repetition, fear loses authority. It learns that it no longer commands you. If you have ever watched a child learn to walk, you have seen this law in motion. The child does not study courage. He discovers it through falling and rising. He learns that the body can move through imbalance, that progress comes not from avoiding the fall, but from rising again after it. So it is with you. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. Do not seek the absence of fear. The moment you move, the scales shift in your favor, because fear cannot survive in motion. It suffocates when you act. Repeat these words now until they take root in your consciousness. I move first. Courage follows my feet. Again, slower. I move first. Courage follows my feet. Feel what that means. It is not a metaphor. It is a law. Action first, feeling second. And soon, what was once terror becomes your training. The ground that trembled beneath you becomes the stage upon which you stand. Because the man who moves, even without certainty, discovers that courage is not something he needs to find. It is something he creates with every step he takes. Every man carries within him a voice that can either crown him or condemn him. It whispers when all else is silent. It questions when faith is needed most. And if left untrained, it becomes the cruelest tyrant in existence. For it knows your every weakness and wields your own thoughts as weapons. But I tell you now, that voice is not your master. It is a tool, a servant, a mechanism to be commanded. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. And the one who observes may also direct. I learned this truth after years of studying the inner workings of successful men. Every one of them, without exception, had learned to command his own inner voice. Where the ordinary man allows thought to dictate emotion, the extraordinary man dictates to thought what emotion shall be allowed to remain. You must learn to do the same. You must become the commander of your mind. Let us first understand the nature of this inner voice. It is ancient, protective, cautious. It speaks in warnings because that is what it was made for. Its purpose is survival, not greatness. It says, stay where it is safe. Do not risk. Do not rise. And most men obey it without question. But greatness is not safety. Progress is not preservation. And so you must train your inner voice to serve a new purpose. Not to protect, but to propel. When that familiar unease rises within you, when the thought begins to whisper, this is dangerous, this is too much, you must interrupt it with awareness. Do not wrestle with it. Simply name it. Say quietly, this is fear, not fate. In that moment, you reclaim authority. You separate yourself from the illusion that thoughts are truth. They are merely suggestions, and you are free to accept or reject them. Once the feeling is labeled, replace it with command. Do not reason. Do not debate. Simply issue the order. Proceed. You will be astonished at the power of that single word when spoken with conviction. Proceed does not ask for comfort. It demands action. It carries no argument, only direction. And the subconscious, ever loyal to clear instruction, will follow. But to master this in the heat of battle, you must practice it in calm. So here is a small drill, one I have taught to many who struggled with self-doubt. It requires only 90 seconds. You may perform it anywhere, before a meeting, before a decision, before you face what frightens you. Every man carries within him a voice that can either crown him or condemn him. It whispers when all else is silent. It questions when faith is needed most. And if left untrained, it becomes the cruelest tyrant in existence. For it knows your every weakness and wields your own thoughts as weapons. But I tell you now, that voice is not your master. It is a tool, a servant, a mechanism to be commanded. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. And the one who observes may also direct. I learned this truth after years of studying the inner workings of successful men. Every one of them, without exception, had learned to command his own inner voice. Where the ordinary man allows thought to dictate emotion, the extraordinary man dictates to thought what emotion shall be allowed to remain. You must learn to do the same. You must become the commander of your mind. Let us first understand the nature of this inner voice. It is ancient, protective, cautious. It speaks in warnings because that is what it was made for. Its purpose is survival, not greatness. It says, stay where it is safe. Do not risk, do not rise, and most men obey it without question. But greatness is not safety. Progress is not preservation. And so you must train your inner voice to serve a new purpose, not to protect, but to propel. When that familiar unease rises within you, when the thought begins to whisper, this is dangerous, this is too much, you must interrupt it with awareness. Do not wrestle with it. Simply name it. Say quietly, this is fear, not fate. In that moment, you reclaim authority. You separate yourself from the illusion that thoughts are truth. They are merely suggestions, and you are free to accept or reject them. Once the feeling is labeled, replace it with command. Do not reason, do not debate. Simply issue the order. Proceed. You will be astonished at the power of that single word when spoken with conviction. Proceed does not ask for comfort. It demands action. It carries no argument, only direction, and the subconscious, ever loyal to clear instruction, will follow. But to master this in the heat of battle, you must practice it in calm. So here is a small drill, one I have taught to many who struggled with self-doubt. It requires only 90 seconds. You may perform it anywhere, before a meeting, before a decision, before you face what frightens you. The 90-second breath and command drill. Step 1, breathe. Close your eyes and draw one long breath through the nose. Hold it for a moment, then release slowly. Do this 3 times. With each exhale, imagine that you are releasing the noise of the world. Step 2, label. Say to yourself, this is fear, not fate. Acknowledge the feeling as an event, not an identity. You are not afraid. You are simply experiencing fear, as one might experience rain. It passes. Step 3, command. In a calm, steady tone, say aloud or within, proceed. Repeat it softly, rhythmically for the remainder of the 90 seconds. Proceed, proceed, proceed. Let it become a drumbeat in your consciousness. Do not try to force courage. Let it arise naturally from movement and breath. Soon you will feel your pulse slow, your chest open, your thoughts clear. The storm inside will calm, and all that will remain is direction. Understand this. Fear thrives in confusion. When the mind is scattered, fear multiplies. But when the mind is given a single, precise command, fear dissolves. It cannot coexist with clarity. So make this your daily discipline. Label the feeling, replace it with order, and breathe your way into composure. Repeat this now, after me, slowly with certainty. This is fear, not fate. Proceed. Again. This is fear, not fate. Proceed. Let it settle deep within your mind, because the man who masters his inner voice becomes untouchable. He is no longer the slave of thought. He is the sculptor of it. And in that mastery lies freedom, the kind of freedom that no circumstance, no man, and no fear can ever take away. There is a truth about greatness that most men refuse to face. Success does not belong to the inspired, it belongs to the disciplined. Motivation is a spark. It burns bright, but briefly. Discipline is the furnace. It burns steady, unyielding, and eternal. You may be moved by emotion, stirred by vision, ignited by passion, but when fatigue comes, and it always does, only discipline remains. Only discipline will lift you from your bed when comfort seduces you to stay. Only discipline will carry you forward when the voice of fear whispers, "You've done enough." And only discipline will silence the endless negotiation between your desires and your excuses. For that negotiation, that inner debate, is the birthplace of all weakness. Each time you argue with yourself, you allow fear to re-enter the council of your mind. Discipline ends the debate before it begins. It does not ask, "Do I feel like it?" It simply commands, "Do it." When I studied the habits of those who built empires, men like Carnegie, Ford, Edison, I found a single common thread. They all lived by rule, not by impulse. Each had a personal law, simple, consistent, immovable, by which their days were governed. Their emotions served them, but never ruled them. To cultivate that same inner iron, I teach what I call the daily rule of 3. 3 deliberate acts that train the mind to obey purpose over mood. First, 1 discomfort at dawn. The moment you rise, do something that your comfort resists. It may be rising before the sun. It may be a cold wash, a walk in the chill, a task begun before breakfast. It matters not what it is, only that you begin your day by mastering reluctance. For he who conquers comfort at dawn conquers delay all day. Second, 1 task completed when least inclined. There will come an hour, perhaps in the afternoon, when your energy wanes, when the mind whispers, "Rest, postpone, another time." That is the precise moment to act. Select 1 task, something meaningful, something you would rather avoid, and complete it then. You are teaching your mind that feelings are suggestions, not commands. Third, 1 promise kept exactly on time. If you tell yourself you will write at 5, begin at 5. If you declare you will complete a work before dusk, let it be done before dusk. By keeping promises to yourself with precision, you restore faith in your own word. That faith is the foundation of all self-confidence. For how can a man lead others if he cannot trust himself to obey himself? Practice these 3 small disciplines daily, and within weeks your inner world will change. You will notice that fear has less to cling to, that hesitation finds no entry. Why? Because the mind trained in discipline no longer negotiates with doubt, it simply moves. When the emotion of fear arises, discipline steps forward and says, "We have already decided," and the body follows. This, my friend, is how the strong are made. They do not wait for passion. They do not crave inspiration. They move in accordance with principle, and their consistency builds an armor that no adversity can penetrate. Repeat this with me now, and let it sink into the very marrow of your being. I do what is required, regardless of mood. Again slowly, I do what is required, regardless of mood. For that is the creed of all who rise beyond fear. When others stop, you will continue. When others falter, you will press on. And soon, the world itself will bend to your persistence. Because fear cannot bargain with a man who no longer negotiates. There comes a moment in every man's pursuit when the weight feels unbearable, when the world seems to conspire against his progress, and the labor that once inspired him begins to feel like punishment. I have known that moment myself, as have all men who ever achieved anything worthy of remembrance. It is in that moment that one truth must be remembered. Above all others, pain is not punishment. Pain is tuition, and purpose is the degree. The trials you endure are not meant to break you. They are meant to educate you. The strain you feel is proof that you are advancing, proof that you have outgrown your old level of existence. Pressure, my friend, is the signature of progress. It is the body's proof that growth is occurring, and the soul's reminder that greatness has a price. When you feel the burn of struggle, when the mind cries out for relief, do not curse it. Recognize it. Say to yourself, "This pressure is proof I have left the old level," because it is so. No man feels growing pains while standing still. Let me tell you of a young man named Andrew Carnegie. When I first met him, I saw in him not the steel magnate he would become, but a clerk, thin, humble, yet filled with quiet fire. In those early years, he worked not with ease, but under immense strain. He rose before dawn. He managed tasks beyond his station. He faced rejection from men of higher rank, and yet he told me something I have never forgotten. He said, "Mr. Hill, every ounce of discomfort I endure feels like payment in advance for the man I am becoming." That, you see, is the secret. He had already converted pain into purpose. He understood that what most men call suffering, the wise man calls seasoning. Each challenge refined his patience, his clarity, his endurance. He was not waiting for the pain to end. He was using it, and by the time he had risen to power, the furnace that once threatened to consume him had become the forge that strengthened him. You must do the same. When hardship arrives, as it surely will, do not plead for its departure. Ask instead, what skill, what strength, what insight is this pain trying to teach me? The question alone transforms suffering into progress. Understand me well. The man who avoids pain avoids growth. The one who runs from struggle runs from the very experience that would have given him wisdom. For wisdom is not learned in ease, it is learned in endurance. Purpose is the great alchemist. It turns pain into power, obstacles into instruction, wounds into wisdom. Without it, discomfort feels meaningless. With it, discomfort becomes divine. So when the heart aches, when fatigue sets in, when it feels as though your burden is greater than your capacity, pause and remind yourself of this truth. This pressure is proof I have left the old level. You are not being punished. You are being promoted. The weight upon your shoulders is the test of whether you can carry greater responsibility, greater opportunity, greater success. And you can, because purpose gives strength where comfort never could. Repeat these words with me now. Pain is tuition. Purpose is the degree, again with conviction. Pain is tuition, purpose is the degree. Let that truth take hold deep within you. When others curse their trials, you will bless them. When others surrender to struggle, you will rise through it. And in time, those very hardships will become your credentials. The sacred marks that show you have paid the price, earned the wisdom, and mastered yourself. For it is not the absence of pain that defines greatness, but the ability to walk through it. Eyes forward, heart steady, and purpose unshaken. Now I ask you to sit still. Let your body grow quiet. Let the air around you become still, as though the world itself has paused to listen. Close your eyes and take a slow, deliberate breath. In through the nose, Hold and release gently through the mouth. Again, breathe in deeply. Hold for a moment and exhale slowly. One more time, in and out. You are safe, you are steady, and now, together, we will walk into the place where fear is undone. In your mind's eye, I want you to see before you a long corridor, high ceilings, stone walls, illuminated by a faint golden light that flickers like the first breath of dawn. You hear your own footsteps echo softly along the floor, each one deliberate, calm, assured. This is the path into the Temple of Courage, a place not built by hands, but by the fire of every challenge you have ever faced. As you move forward, the corridor opens into a great circular chamber. The air here feels charged, alive. On the walls, you see faint inscriptions, carved deep into the stone, words you have spoken to yourself in moments of doubt. You hear them now, distant, ghostly echoes, voices saying, "You're not ready, you might fail, you're not enough." These are the echoes of fear. They linger here only because you once believed them, but today you will dissolve them. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, whisper softly, "I command silence." Feel the power of that declaration ripple through the chamber. The first echo fades. Again, breathe deeply, hold, and release, whispering, "I choose strength." Another echo fades. One more time, a slow, steady breath. Say with conviction, "I am not the echo, I am the voice." The chamber grows quiet, the air becomes lighter, and now you stand in silence, no longer surrounded by doubt but by stillness. From the center of the chamber, a doorway begins to reveal itself, tall, arched, carved from stone, and glowing with warm light. You walk toward it slowly. When you pass through, you find yourself in a smaller room, circular, serene, and bright. This is the inner forge. There before you stands a figure, calm, composed, radiant with quiet power. You recognize this presence at once. It is the steady one. Your higher self, the version of you that does not flinch, that does not yield, that never doubts. He regards you with eyes of absolute knowing. No judgment, only recognition. He speaks, and his voice is your own, yet deeper, anchored in certainty. You have always been me. I have always been you. You have simply forgotten your strength. He extends his hand, and before you appear three symbols, each glowing faintly in the golden light. The first is a torch. He places it in your hand and says, "This is decision." It burns through uncertainty. When you raise it, the path reveals itself. The second is a key. He places it upon your palm. This is exposure. It unlocks courage through contact. What you face, you conquer. The third is a seal, etched with ancient markings. He presses it against your chest, just above your heart. It warms as it touches you. This is discipline. It closes the door to hesitation and opens the way to mastery. You feel the three symbols merge within you. The torch of decision illuminating your mind, the key of exposure steady in your hand, the seal of discipline pulsing with quiet fire in your chest. Together they form a trinity of power, the essence of courage. The steady one speaks again. Remember these? And no fear shall command you. Decision lights the way. Exposure strengthens the step. Discipline carries you through the storm. He places his hand upon your shoulder. You feel warmth radiate through you. A calm, steady energy flowing from your crown to your feet. It anchors you. It reminds you that this strength was never borrowed. It was merely dormant. Now he looks at you one final time and says, "Your trials will come again." The voice of fear will whisper again. But when it does, breathe and remember this truth. You do not answer to fear. You command it. The chamber begins to dissolve into light. You stand once more in the golden corridor, the same you who entered, yet not the same within. Your breath feels deeper, your posture taller, your heart steadier. Take a slow, final breath in. Hold it. And as you release it, repeat after me, quietly but with absolute conviction. I command, I move, I remain. Again, slower. Feel each word resonate through your body. I command. I move, I remain. One last time, firm, unwavering. I command, I move, I remain. Now, open your eyes. The light of this vision stays with you. It is not imagination, it is instruction. And from this day forward, when fear rises, you will not shrink. You will breathe, you will remember, and you will act. as the steady one does, calm, deliberate, unstoppable. Now, my friend, allow me to show you how these laws come alive, not in theory, but in men and women of flesh and spirit. For truth is proven not in words, but in results. And I have seen through many years of teaching the remarkable transformation that occurs when one aligns thought, emotion, and disciplined action. Let me tell you of three such souls: ordinary in circumstance, extraordinary in awakening. Sophia. When Sophia first sought my counsel, she was a young woman of remarkable intellect, but bound by trembling fear. Her voice would falter each time she stood to speak, her hands cold, her heart racing as though before a tribunal. She confided, "Mr. Hill, I have knowledge within me, yet every time I rise to share it, fear steals it from my tongue." I told her, "Sophia, you do not lack eloquence. You lack exposure. Fear grows in silence, but it dies in contact." So I gave her a simple task for 30 consecutive days. She was to practice exposure, not grand speeches, not great crowds, merely one act each day that defied her hesitation. The first day, she read aloud to herself in the mirror. The second, she addressed a friend. The third, a small group of coworkers. By the 10th day, her voice had grown firm. By the 20th, it had grown clear. By the 30th, she addressed an assembly of 200 without trembling. When she finished, she wrote to me saying, "Fear is still there, Mr. Hill, but it now obeys me." That is law 2. Exposure ends exaggeration. She stepped toward the flame, and it became her light. David was a man in his middle years, a provider, a husband, a father. He carried the weary look of one who bore too much weight and too little peace. He said to me, "I work tirelessly, but my mind is restless. Fear follows me even into sleep. I dread losing what I've built." I asked him, "David, do you keep your promises to yourself?" He frowned and said, "I don't know that I do." So I instructed him in Law 6. Discipline destroys negotiation. Each morning he was to face one discomfort at dawn. Each day, complete one task he least desired. Each evening, keep one promise precisely on time. And each night, record it in a courage ledger. At first, he resisted. The ledger seemed trivial, the exercises unnecessary. But within weeks, a change began. He discovered that every small act of completion silenced the anxious voice within, that every promise kept was a vote of confidence in himself. And soon the man who once feared instability became the pillar of steadiness at his place of work. Months later, he wrote me this line, which I have never forgotten: "I did not find peace by resting. I found it by keeping my word." And that, my friend, is Law 8. Discipline over emotion. He no longer acted when he felt strong. He acted until he became strong. Emira was a widow from Alexandria, quiet and gracious, yet shadowed by dread. Her husband's passing had left her alone, with modest means and no clear path. She feared poverty, uncertainty, and the future itself. When we first spoke, she confessed, "I wake every morning afraid, not of death, but of living without direction." I told her, "Amira, your life will not return by avoiding fear, but by giving purpose a place to live again. Begin small. Speak life into your days through auto-suggestion." Each dawn and dusk, she practiced the morning and night formulas I had taught her. She would name one aim, picture its completion, and repeat aloud, "I am calm under pressure. I act." Then before sleep, she would recall 3 small acts of courage. She also began small ventures, sewing, mending, selling bits of fabric to her neighbors. Fear whispered, "It is too little," but purpose replied, "It is a beginning." Within a year, those small acts grew into a thriving atelier, a place where other widows found work and dignity. When I visited her shop years later, she smiled and said, "Fear once ruled this house, Mr. Hill. Now it pays rent." That is Law 3, the story maker. She rewrote her inner narrative until courage became her language. Each of these lives reveals the same truth. Fear cannot withstand exposure, discipline, or purpose. It thrives in thought, but it dies in movement. Sophia mastered exposure and found her voice. David mastered discipline and found his peace. Amira mastered thought and found her freedom. Each began trembling, each persisted through the fire, and each emerged not fearless but in command. I have said it often, and I say it again now. No man or woman is born courageous. They are built through daily acts of decision, through steady repetition, through quiet triumphs uncelebrated by the world, but witnessed by the soul. These stories are not exceptions. They are evidence. Evidence that the same laws which freed them can free you. If you apply them, if you practice them, if you make them your nightly creed, fear will lose its throne within you. And when the old voice of doubt rises again, as it will, you will not tremble. You will smile, and you will say calmly, as those before you have said, I command, I move, I remain. For that is the final victory. Not to destroy fear, but to live beyond its reach. There is a sacred hour that most men waste, the quiet hour before sleep. It is then, when the world softens and the conscious mind begins to rest, that the gates to the subconscious open wide, and what you whisper in that hour becomes the command your deeper mind obeys through the night. Understand this. The subconscious is the tireless worker of your destiny. It does not question. It does not argue. It simply executes the orders it receives, clearly or carelessly. And most men, without realizing it, issue orders of confusion, fear, and limitation just before they drift to sleep. They think of what went wrong. They replay moments of embarrassment or loss. They murmur, I'm tired, I'm behind, I can't. And so the subconscious, faithful and obedient, works all through the night to build more of the same, but not you, not any longer. From this night onward, you shall give your mind a night command. It takes no more than 3 minutes, but practiced faithfully, it will reshape the architecture of your inner world. Now I will guide you through it. First, when you lie in bed, still your body and breathe deeply. 3 slow breaths in through the nose, hold, and exhale through the mouth. Let the day fall away from you like old garments. Do not wrestle with your thoughts. Simply allow them to drift, then softly whisper your aim. State it plainly, without pleading, without strain. Something like, tomorrow, I will act with clarity and courage. Or, I am building strength, peace, and prosperity. Say it as though it were already so. Next, thank the hardship. This is the alchemy of growth. You might whisper, I am grateful for the trials that have shaped me. Or, the pressure I feel is proof that I am being refined. For gratitude transforms resistance into fuel. It softens the heart and steadies the mind. Then comes the final step. Issue your command. Give a direct, firm order to your deeper mind. You may say, while I sleep, my deeper mind completes what I began. Repeat it once more, slower, with authority. While I sleep, my deeper mind completes what I began. Do not add more. Do not dilute the message. The power lies in simplicity and repetition. Then rest. Do not wrestle with the outcome. Trust the silent worker within you. Know that even as your body rests, your spirit labors in the unseen, arranging, aligning, and completing the tasks you set in motion. And when dawn comes, you will rise with ideas, clarity, or strength that you did not possess the night before. You will think it coincidence, perhaps, but it is not. It is the response of your obedient mind to the command you gave it. I have lived by this law for decades, and I have taught it to men who built fortunes, to women who rebuilt faith, to souls who rose from despair into purpose. The subconscious is the eternal builder, and you are its architect. So tonight, before you surrender to sleep, remember this ritual. Whisper your aim, thank your hardship, command your mind, and then with quiet certainty, say once more, while I sleep, my deeper mind completes what I began. Let that sentence be the final sound of your day, the bridge between will and manifestation, between thought and reality. And you shall find, as so many before you have, that when the conscious man rests, the builder within begins his work. Now, my friend, you have studied the laws, you have heard the testimonies, you have trained the mind and spirit to command, to move, to remain, but knowledge, no matter how sacred, is still incomplete until it becomes deed. Every philosophy must end in practice. Every truth must find its echo in movement. And so, before we part, I ask you to seal what you have learned, not merely with thought, but with an oath to yourself. An oath to the man or woman you are becoming, an oath that will resound in your very breath. each time fear seeks to speak again. I will speak the lines slowly. You will repeat them aloud if you can, within if you must. Each word is to be spoken with certainty, as if you were engraving it upon the stone of your own will. Now breathe. Steady your body, lift your chin slightly, and repeat after me. I do not negotiate with fear. Pause. Feel those words. Let them settle like steel in your chest. I label it, and I move. Fear may rise, but I do not debate it. I recognize it for what it is, a signal, not a sentence, and I advance. I keep my word. My promises to others, yes, but above all, my promises to myself. For every time I do what I said I would do, I carve trust into my soul. I finish. No task half done, no dream left halfway. Completion is my signature. Consistency is my crown. I rise. When I fall, I rise. When I doubt, I rise. When I am struck, I rise. For it is not the blow that defines a man, but his response. Now let us repeat them once more, as one continuous oath. I do not negotiate with fear. I label it, and I move. I keep my word. I finish. I rise. Say it again, with breath, with rhythm, with will. Let your voice, or the silent strength within you, carry it like a drumbeat through your being. This oath is not ceremony, it is identity. It is a declaration that from this day forth, hesitation has no dominion over your movement. And so I ask one final act of you, one bold deed before this day closes. Do not let this message rest only in your mind. Write down a single action that frightens you, yet calls to you. It may be a conversation delayed, a decision postponed, an idea left buried. Whatever it is, write it clearly, and do it today, not tomorrow, not when the conditions improve. Today, for courage lives only in the present. Fear feeds on delay, but faith is born in movement. And as you complete that one act, know that you are not merely overcoming fear. You are redefining yourself. You are proving to the unseen forces of your mind that you command, you move, you remain. Breathe. Once more, lift your head and whisper the final vow. I rise. Let that be your final word, your living seal, your unbroken rhythm. For the fearless man does not wait for a day free of fear. He walks through it, and in doing so he becomes free. Now we come to the end, or rather the beginning of a life no longer governed by hesitation, no longer dimmed by imagined defeat. For what I have sought to show you through every line, every image, and every law is not how to escape fear, but how to rule it. Fear was never your sovereign. You merely lent it your crown. It sat upon a throne, built of your doubts, your delays, your imagined failures, but all along it was your own strength that gave it power. You see, fear has never created a single masterpiece, never founded a single enterprise, never healed a single soul. It is a whisper that thrives only when you bow to it. But the moment you stand tall, the moment you act with decision and faith, fear loses its shape and falls away like smoke before the wind. You were not sent here to surrender. You were sent here to build your courage, to build your faith, to build a life that testifies to the power of disciplined thought and directed purpose. You were not meant to drift as a leaf upon the river of chance. You were meant to steer. You were not born to tremble at the storm. You were meant to master it. So the next time fear comes to your door, and it will, do not hide. Do not beg it to leave. Stand firm. Look it in the eye. And remember this, when fear knocks, purpose answers. And when purpose answers, fear departs. Let that truth echo within you. Let it guide your steps when the road is dark, when comfort tempts, when the mind begins to doubt. For you now possess the fire of decision, the clarity of discipline, and the calm of purpose. You have learned to move first, to speak command, to act before permission, and to rest in the certainty that every obstacle is your training ground. There will be moments when fear returns, dressed in new garments, whispering the same old lines. Smile then, for you will recognize its voice. And you will remember that fear is not your master, but your measure. It appears not to stop you, but to show you where you are meant to grow. Now, my friend, as you close this lesson, let the final words not be mine, but yours. spoken through action. Begin now. Do not wait for courage to arrive, nor for the path to be made smooth. Step forward, uncertain, perhaps trembling, but forward nonetheless. For it is not the thought that proves a man's worth, nor the feeling, nor the wish. It is the movement. So take your first step. Let your movement be the proof. And when you look back, when the dust has settled and the doubts have faded, you will see that the man who began in fear has become the man who commands it. That is the quiet victory of every builder of destiny. And so I say to you, with faith, conviction, and calm authority, begin now. Let your movement be the proof.